Hi all, good afternoon. There's some serious mosquitoes out today, so I'm going to try to light some Palo Santo because, of course, in addition to getting rid of negative energies, the scent and the smoke gets rid of mosquitoes too. Come on baby, light it up. It's a little windy. All right. Mosquitoes don't like the smoke. They don't, and it smells great. Ward off the angry energies, nasty energies, because we know they're out there for sure. But it feels like we've got a real reprieve going on right now. We certainly do. It's like everything's over, and the mask spell out there seems to have been lifted. Of course, I understand that they are dangling that carrot of freedom, and I definitely don't want to fall victim to the belief that, again, this is over, because it's certainly not. We know that. But it's nice to, again, get out there and see smiling faces once again. Miss that for sure. I can see a few people are there, but I can't see who you are, unfortunately. Gathering up, having a nice coffee. There's a lot of action, bird action in my yard today. Most every day. I've got 2 cats that visit quite regularly, a couple times a day, surveying the animal action, being little predators. Although I enjoy them. You know, I thought I'd get right down to it today because, on YouTube, it's just getting ridiculous. Of course, I'm doing my lives, and the reason I started doing these lives was because I was being so censored over on YouTube. But what I do is I always convert these videos to YouTube and NewTube after, depending on the size. And sometimes they're really long, so NewTube wasn't taking them, but we've got that straightened out. The fact is that, you know, I do want to do some content for YouTube, but if I have to dumb it down, what's the point? It's ridiculous. I don't want to dumb it down. I don't want to have to conform into their box, because I think I handle and speak about these things quite eloquently. And again, I'm not over the top, and if they will not accept my truth, then why should I invest any time there? It sucks, because there's over 500 people over there, just about getting on to 600, and that's taken forever, I can tell you. With shadow banning, it's really hard to grow an audience. You know, here, launch into your new career, Martine. There's no chance of expansion. Unless you, like, beat the hell out of the door. And again, it doesn't want to open. And I'm kind of a believer, spiritually speaking, that, you know, if see, when you're young, they teach you that you're supposed to kick down doors. And I used to think that too. But what I've learned, being my spiritual self, is that doors that are meant for me go wide open. And sometimes that's why you'll see me, you know, move and groove and shift my direction really quickly, because I understand this. I've learned lots of lessons in my life. So again, frustrating, but I'm not letting it get to me. So what I'm going to sort of do is start to do some Instagram lives that I've never done before. I've never really nurtured the Instagram audience, mostly because I didn't have much over there. And again, the shadow banning. Again, now I've got 3 different platforms going. We've got more people. So again, I can do that. You want to reach more people, but at the end of the day, I definitely want to spend a lot of my time coming up, nurturing the people I have. I really do. Because we're all in various stages of acknowledgement, and there's a lot of us that are also going, you know, okay, you know, we're willing to move and groove. All right, what do we have to do? So that's where I want to go with this. First, I wanted to talk about today about, the World Health Organization, again, mask recommendations. And of course, we all have to know by now that the power structure here is from the World Health Organization. That's where it starts. Well, it doesn't really start there. It starts from China. And again, the New World Order, the Agenda 2030 cartel. And again, they're all in on it. So those recommendations come down to Tedros, and then by extension to those public health officers, and our chief being Tam. And then in Saskatchewan, Shabab, Hinshaw in Alberta, Bonnie Henry in BC. I need to learn the names of the rest of them, I really do. When you're a Westerner, you tend to stick to the west of Canada, and although we'll be talking about what's going on in Ontario today as well, because that's important to know. See, they're really strict on the mask. They're not letting that go away right now. In any case, first we're going to talk about the World Health Organization and their mandate. And this is in the Huffington Post today. Dangerous Delta COVID-19 variant infecting vaccinated adults in Israel. So this is how Israel's leading the pack. If you don't know that, they truly are. They're like the Arab states, like UAE and Saudi. They are. So they're ahead of this. And of course, there's been pretty much no mercy if you don't want to be vaccinated in Israel right now. The World Health Organization is recommending that everyone, even the fully vaccinated, continue to wear masks because of the highly transmissible variant. In an alarming new development, the particularly transmissible Delta variant of CV-19 has infected some fully vaccinated adults in Israel. Officials there have reported of more than 100 daily cases amid an outbreak of the Delta variant. Half were children younger than 16. The Wall Street Journal reported Friday. Most of them hadn't yet been vaccinated, according to Dr. Ran Basiler, head of the CV-19 advisor panel on CV-19 for the Israeli government. But half of the adults infected had been fully vaccinated with the Pfizer vaccine, Basiler said. About 90% of the new infections in Israel were likely caused by the Delta variant, the journal reported. Now, what I found interesting, and this is from this Rance Basiler, is in a tweet, am I asked how come under 30% cases are vaccinated? Are the vaccines failing us? The math, 85% of adults are fully vaccinated in Israel. Delta vax efficacy, 80%. Unvaccinated ratio, 1.13. 52% of adult cases expected to be vaccinated. Kind of, it's very difficult to explain this here. So what I'm going to do is, again, put all of these links in the comments so you can take a look through these tweets because it's really important. Spurred by new information, the Israeli government has now reimposed an indoor mask mandate and quickly expanded its vaccination program to include children ages 12 to 15 with the Pfizer. The World Health Organization on Friday also warned everyone, even those fully vaccinated, to play it safe and continue to wear a mask and maintain social distancing in light of large numbers of people who remain unvaccinated and the emergence of the Delta variant, which is called the most transmissible form of coronavirus identified to date. Of course, the Delta variant has come after a number of the variants. Interestingly enough, the Indian variant, the Indian government denied its existence. So I watch a lot of WeOn, and although it's pretty mainstream, it's India. And it's good to see their perspective because they sure nail out a lot of interesting points out of Europe and, of course, the East. This is interesting. People cannot feel safe just because they have had the 2 doses. They still need to protect themselves. Dr. Mariangela Semo, who Assistant Director General for Access to Medicines, said at a news briefing in Geneva, vaccine alone won't stop community transmission. Okay, so what is the point? And this is why I wanted to bring up this point in this article. So again, I'm going to put this in the comments so you guys can jump on board and check it out. Now, interestingly enough, in Ontario, they seem to be following the WHO recommendation, because they actually say this. This is in blog TO. And let's go here. The province will move into Step 3 on July 16th. Dr. Kieran Moore, the province's Chief Medical Officer of Health, announced in a press conference on July 9th. This will mean a return to many indoor public spaces, but things aren't back to normal quite yet. Step 3 focuses on the safe resumption of additional indoor services with larger numbers of people, but with restrictions in place, said Moore. Gyms will open at 50% capacity, movie theaters, concert, and indoor dining will resume. In all of these indoor venues, in addition to physical distancing, masks will still be required. Face coverings in indoor public settings, physical distancing requirements remain in place throughout Step 3, Moore said. This is because of the ongoing threat of the Delta strain of COVID. So, of course, now the mask requirements are being blamed, again, on this new strain. Ontario not coming out of it, and of course they're pushing ahead and saying, yeah, it's September. But of course we know September school's back in and regular, and the flu season's back. So in Alberta and Saskatchewan and BC, summertime, they're allowing it. I couldn't see on Manitoba, but I think their mask mandate still is in. If I'm incorrect, though, please let me know. Where are you? No, it's not over, Yana. They are trying to force people to get the jab. In France and in Ecuador, city of Guayaquil, they just announced you won't be able to go to any public venues without it. Isn't that interesting, Yana? I know somebody. One is just outside of Guayaquil, so that's interesting. I know quite a few gringos. I spent a lot of time in Ecuador, so I know a lot of gringos that are saying they're not going to get it for 3 years there. So that's interesting stuff. Ecuador is definitely a leader in the, the United Nations is very, very active there, always has been, and I've learned a lot. I spent 10 years going back, and I was there every year. Interesting, Anna. In France, I've seen that. That's very scary. But there's a lot of pushback right now. On Telegram, I'm seeing a lot of pushback in France. This is the mayor of the city of Guayaquil announced that by October you will need a jab to be able to leave your home. Wow. I have to get a hold of some of my friends in Ecuador. I have a friend also who was in the States, and she's planning to go back. And again, that was a part of getting there before it became mandatory on the airplane. That's really scary news. Now, you have to understand, Ecuador is in China's pocket. So the fact that they are pushing ahead there is a little bit not typical of Ecuador. Not. And again, they have a very large population and no social... Well, actually, no, they do have socialized health care, don't they? Exactamente. See, that's the key in all of this, right, is socialized health care. And if they don't have socialized health care, a lot of people can't afford this unless it's given. Wow. I'm shocked about Ecuador. I'm shocked, and I'm not shocked about Ecuador. I'm not. Again, Toronto following the same line. Again, the Delta variant. Now, next, where was I going to go? Now, yeah, let's go to Saskatchewan. Because masks are no longer mandatory in public spaces. And of course, I've been talking about that. Again, really nice to see everyone's smiling faces. Honestly, an energy has lifted, the energy of doom and gloom. It has. And I'm not seeing a whole ton of people in their cars anymore with the mask. Again, it's like the spell has been broken, which is very nice to see. I'm getting reports in from different various retailers, like Co-op, for example. Apparently they were like fascists with the mask. And now even the employees have it off, which I'm surprised about. But again, here I've been really making that push about hijab, right? And interestingly enough, you're going to love this, because masks are no longer mandatory in public spaces. Business owners will determine policies based on their individual occupational health and safety plans. Masks have been mandated in major Saskatchewan cities since November 6th and province-wide since November 17th. During the province's last scheduled COVID-19 update on Wednesday, Dr. Saqib Shabab, Saskatchewan's chief medical health officer, asked residents to respect masking requirements. Dr. Shabab also said it's a good idea to still wear a mask in crowded settings around unfamiliar people. So yes, in fact, my friends, it is hijab. Yes, it is. Interestingly enough, and you know the mask will be back. This is a reprieve, but we have a season of sickness, and we always know that because September is when it starts here, and then we start getting into fall and winter. This is where it's going. And again, what I'm hearing is the fact that the flu is expected to be, well, again, another variant, right? Really bad this year because it went away last year on a holiday, and it's decided to come back, and it's going to be coming back with a vengeance from what we understand. And of course, the importance of getting that flu vaccine is there too. So for those good corporate citizens, they're going to be getting, you know, the CV, and then the variants, and then of course the flu every year. Basically, you're just going to be lining up continually like an animal to get your amendments. That's a little scary there, Yana, about Ecuador. I'm a little horrified. Thank you for that information. Wow. Then, of course, you know, we're all quite concerned about the V passports and the talk about that. Of course, I believe that that is the direction, and of course it is the direction because Trudeau has been speaking with other world leaders of the West where they are working on implementing that allocation for travel between these countries. The problem is there's going to be a lot of countries that can't, again, fulfill those requirements for the V. So not every country in the world is going to be partaking in this, but this is how they're going to hit us first, and it's going to be with international travel. And of course, we knew that. In any case, I saw a report yesterday, and it's on Facebook. It was a report in French, and I got the impression it was about the fact that, and it had Trudeau talking in French, talking about the fact that they would not be pushing forth with the V passports right now. And the reporters brought up the Montana bill that had been introduced, and that bill is HB 702. Now this came forth in the spring, I believe. 2021 Montana legislature, and again, I'm going to put this in the comments for you. And it's an act prohibiting discrimination based on a person's vaccination status or possession of an immunity passport, providing an exception, providing an appropriation, and providing effective dates. Whereas, as stated in Section 50-16-502 MCA, the legislature finds that healthcare information is personal and sensitive information that, if improperly used or released, may do significant harm to a patient's interests in privacy and healthcare or other interests. And whereas the Montana Supreme Court in State versus Nelson 283, Montana 231, Oh, we got all the numbers. Concluded that medical records fall within the zone of privacy protected by Article 2, Section 10 of the Montana Constitution and are quintessentially private and deserve the utmost constitutional protection. Now, the way the reporters, again, I don't speak French, so applying some of my Spanish knowledge and a little Google Translate, I got the impression that this document in Montana might be posing a roadblock for Canada and the U.S. right now. So that was really interesting. In any case, it's lengthy, but let's just go through the Section 1. Discrimination based on vaccination status or possession of an immunity passport. Prohibited definitions. Except as provided in subsection 2, it is unlawful discriminatory practice for a person or a governmental entity to refuse, withhold from, or deny any person any local or state services, goods, facilities, advantages, privileges, licensing, educational opportunities, healthcare access, or employment opportunities based on the person's vaccination status or whether the person has an immunity passport. B, an employer to refuse employment to a person, to bar a person from employment, to discriminate against a person in compensation or a term, condition, or privilege of employment based on a person's vaccination status or whether the person has an immunity passport, or a public accommodation to exclude, limit, segregate, refuse to serve, or otherwise discriminate against a person based on the person's vaccination status or whether the person has an immunity passport. This section does not apply to vaccination requirements set forth for schools pursuant to Title 20, Chapter 5, Part 4 of or daycare facilities. Oh, interesting. Any person, governmental entity, or employer does not unlawfully discriminate under this section if they recommend that an employee receive a vaccine. A healthcare facility, as defined by 50-5-101, does not lawfully discriminate under this section if it complies with both of the following. Asks an employee to volunteer the employee's vaccination or immunization status for the purpose of determining whether the healthcare facility should implement reasonable accommodation. Whoa. Asks an employee to volunteer... Implements reasonable accommodation measures for employees, patients, visitors, and other persons who are not vaccinated or not immune to protect the safety concerns of employees, patients, visitors, and other persons from communicable diseases. This is confusing, guys. Because on one hand, it's sort of saying, no, it's not going to do that. And then, of course, when it comes to communicable diseases, it can. I'm going to look into that a little more. Again, I'm going to paste it in the comments for you. The thing is, under a public health emergency, they can say whatever they want. Now, of course, again, all these restrictions are lifted. And funny enough, my phone, you go to look at the weather, there's no more public health emergency. So that's really nice, for sure. But again, this isn't over. It's far from it. They just have to be careful about how they go about it. They do. Got a lot of very powerful mainstream people getting out there, like Candace Owens, for example. She is, motherhood has made her even more of a tiger than she ever was, and she sure is now, when it comes to the B and our right not to do it, and again, the passports. So if you're not following her, it's a good idea. She's getting on Facebook a little bit more, again, if they don't ban her content. 4:44. I always like when I look on the clock and there's a little synchronicity going on. Of course, Bitcoin just became an official currency in El Salvador. And yesterday I posted a bunch of comments, but content, I will post that in the comments again on Bitcoin and what's happening in El Salvador. And of course, JP Morgan is coming down as this inevitability comes about. And the powers that be aren't so happy about it. But what's interesting is I know the region where it all came about. And in fact, I spent 2 months there. I spent 2 months in Altunco and Alzante, where the whole Bitcoin phenomenon started, and the first use in a village started to take place. And of course, I spent time there, and I know a lot of people that live that way. It's not too far from where I was. Great beach, surfing town. And it was American who brought Bitcoin and this concept of, again, the town engaging in its usage. And of course, now this has led to the president, young president, implementing it, again, as a national currency. El Salvador is very unique. And I ended up finding some films of people, a couple, a woman from the United States and her husband is Salvadoran, and they have 2 children in El Salvador. And they were out trying to use the Bitcoin. And they get to Altunco, and of course I can see, I recognize so much of it, which is great. Super interesting. But of course, this is about 3 weeks ago, and they just couldn't get it done. And again, it's just so confusing as to all the steps. So I've been spending a lot of time trying to learn more about Bitcoin. And through that, I've actually been learning a lot through John McAfee. Again, I haven't done my spot on him because, gosh, he was pretty well-rounded, and he was into everything that the government hates. Which is probably why they wanted to get rid of him. In any case, what's interesting about El Salvador is the fact that this currency is coming forth. But China is also very, in their own society, they're pulling back on Bitcoin. They seem to promote it, then they don't. But they're very involved in El Salvador. They are. And I'm thinking that this is, again, a bit of a beta test in a very small country with this new currency. And I think it's pretty interesting. He's charging, the president of El Salvador, he's charging 3 Bitcoin to become a permanent resident. Again, interesting. It can be a little rough and tumble. El Salvador is definitely the Wild West. It truly is. And what a more perfect place to launch Bitcoin. Hey, Bianca, Sarah, nice to see you. Hero. Can't see the rest of you. Sorry. Yana, Amanda. Yeah, so again, very interesting to be watching this in its absolute infancy. And it'll be interesting to see how El Salvador handles it. It really will. See, when I was in El Salvador, I'll tell you, I was only supposed to go for about 3 weeks, and I ended up staying 2 months. One of those places where, again, Latin America does this to me. Your brain's just popping. If you are an entrepreneur or you have ever considered doing your own thing, it's one of those places where, well, anything is possible, truly. So I got to thinking the other night, well, wouldn't it be interesting? Now, the biggest problem with the Bitcoin thing there was the fact that, you know, as this couple found out, it's really hard to spend it because nobody takes it. But the area where they're talking is the perfect place. Again, it's going to have to get somewhat more streamlined, but right now, as it's the Wild West, well, you're on the ground floor. What this couple discovered, yes, when I was watching this video, was the fact that the fees were quite expensive in the conversions back and forth. And again, I have to learn a whole lot more. But I kind of got to thinking, wouldn't it be interesting to start a business there that only accepted Bitcoin? Or, again, as an official currency, it would be a great place to get started. I know a lot of people that are invested in El Salvador. Again, in that 2 months, I met a lot of people doing that sort of thing. So, interesting. And there, of course, yeah, they did lockdowns. They did. The government used COVID very opportunistically, locking up gang members and that sort of thing, and ensuring power. El Salvador, definitely, there's cameras everywhere. Like, really, it is a police state. You have to understand that. The place I was in, El Tunco, was 100, like, wired for sound, truly. Every angle had cameras. So that was really kind of weird to get used to. And they definitely have the technology, and a lot of that is provided by China. So I believe that Bitcoin bid is propelled somewhat by China, for sure. Although, again, at this point we can't really be... Cash is on its way out. That's just the way it is. And the more I listen to John McAfee and his last, I guess really 2016 and on, he was on Bitcoin big time, speaking all over the world as a keynote speaker. Again, the media forgot to talk about all these, what John's been up to. They always want to go back to murder and being a crazy man in the jungle. And I've spent a lot of time going through footage, so I will be sharing that coming up. But again, his vision of Bitcoin was the Wild West. It was the privacy, independence, and true freedom. And of course, the powers that be won't want that. They will want to collect taxes. But we've got a bit of a window, again, as this all transpires, to move our money out of the typical. Greg, my concern is they will say you can use crypto until they tell you that you must use crypto. Easy slide into the cash-free world, for sure. Oh, absolutely. But of course, I mean, until it is absolutely regulated, they can't do it. That's going to take a while, for sure. But it's coming. It is. It is, and that will come as global governance takes final hold. And again, Agenda 2030, I believe that's the idea, is by 2030 we will be officially all one. I do believe it. The process has already begun. It began January 30th, 2020. That's the World Health Organization, and really what they've done is they've installed level 1 of this process. I agree, Greg. Again, I was resistant, for sure. I like my cash. But at the end of the day, there's no sense in being ignorant about it. And I am about privacy. So I'm looking into privacy coins, Monero. Again, it was all stuff I didn't really understand. And this is my delay with John McAfee, because I need to understand what he was saying. Because pretty much everything he said that was rather important, actually. Again, that's why they targeted him. They did. He was a wild man, don't get me wrong. But he sure didn't deserve a lot of the crap. But a lot of it, he brought it on himself, for sure. In El Salvador, in a few films, they were trying to sell it, the crypto or Bitcoin, as a way for simple Salvadorans to be able to save money. And they had people transacting it, and they had the option, of course, to pay in US dollars or Bitcoin, and then there was a conversion between the two. So again, a system that is quite regulated. And again, you have to understand, in El Salvador and places like that, like, they have a huge cash economy. That is their economy. It's US dollars, cash. So they're missing out on a whole lot of taxes, I can assure you. Absolutely. So I think Bitcoin will definitely solve that problem. And again, a big problem in these developing nations is the fact that the common person doesn't have access to a bank account. They don't have one. So again, that's how they're selling it. And it will be a way to absolutely document every person. So is it the way to go? And how does perhaps using privacy coins interact with the Bitcoin system in El Salvador? So that'll be interesting if you can do that. It's another, I mean, from what I'm understanding, it's just another currency. Truly. But again, between wallets and then non-compatibilities, it's definitely something to learn. Maybe something to go to El Salvador for a few months and learn all about it. It's cheap to live there, very cheap. You can live like a little king for very, very reasonable, very reasonable. You got to understand too, in places like El Salvador, you've got a lot of gangs, so that's a huge concern. And again, cash is always easy target. It is, Bianca, for sure. My last days, last time I was there, I had been trekking across the river, and I had to hop stones to get across the river to the other side. There was like the tourist side of El Tunco, and then there was the older town of El Tunco, and it's across the river. So I'd hop over the stones, and I'd get up the bank, and the gym was just down the way. And of course, it was pretty rudimentary gym, very simple. It was outdoor, but there were some weights there, so it was worth my $1 to go. And I was, bounding along. But every time I would get over there, I just feel like the energy changed. It was kind of dark, interestingly enough. Women bought birth control pills in that side of the village, and that they're completely illegal in El Salvador. You're not allowed to buy them, right? So again, there was this energy of evil, sort of. Not saying the birth control pills were evil, but I'm just saying it was something. In any case, I'm walking along, and again, I've been doing this, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a week for about a month. And these 2 guys are sitting on this log, and they asked for a toll. And I'm like, what? And they sort of hit each other, and they laugh. And they're like, $1. And I'm like, what? They laugh, they let me go. And of course, as I walk past, I'm like, wow, that's exactly what they were asking for, a toll to pass. And that's how it's done there. It's an interesting culture for sure. But it's a beautiful country. Beautiful country. And the people are so friendly. They truly are. People talk about El Salvador being so dangerous. And yes, they're gangs. Yeah, it is. Driving at night, not always the best idea. I don't do that. I had a car for a couple of weeks while I was there. I really enjoyed it. Beautiful, beautiful spots. I think a lot of people are going to be looking for something more simple coming up. And again, to be able to go figure it out in a place like El Salvador is pretty interesting and very reasonable, for sure. I don't think they'll be vaccinating the entire population there anytime soon. I think what we have to worry about is the international travel, and then that's going to be getting on those planes. And it will be a fight for a while. But we also know that they have a lot of tricks up their sleeves, so we have to be ready for it. We do. In any case, I'm going to go off for a walk, finish my coffee, try to get some Instagram content together. You want to reach everybody, but you just can't. And so what do, right? The people that need to hear will hear. And that's just where we're at. Have a great day, everybody. We'll talk soon.